High School in Pittsburgh, PA, USA. Thank you to all of the schools participating via video conference, including students in Pennsylvania at Agora Cybrook Charter School, Avon Worth High School, Northwestern High School, and Quaker Valley High School. Welcome to our friends in Texas, Delvalle High School, in Mexico at Colegio Newland, and Iran at Carad School. We also have a teacher speaking on behalf of her students in Jordan.
Action 2015 brings us all together around the world. We are 15. A few logistical notes. Please know that this event will be live streamed and recorded. Segments of today's events will be shared with stakeholders both nationally and internationally. All schools participating, please sign to Skype and add World Affairs and Magpie Tech to your contacts to be added to the chat. Please join the conversation on Twitter by using hashtags Action2015 and hashtag WAC2015. We'll be checking in with Twitter from time to time during the event to see the conversation is going both locally and globally. My classmate Dominic will be sharing highlights from Twitter. Please participate. Thank you to the World Affairs Council of Pittsburgh, Save the Children, AIU3, Magpie, World Class Schools, and ESC13 for making this event possible. I'm proud that Cornell School District is a part of Action 2015. In addition to hosting today's video conference, two Cornell students, Olivia Piccolo and Trinai Brunel, are in Washington, D.C. to be part of the launch thanks to the support of Save the Children. They will be visiting the White House and meeting with key officials and sharing a message about the world they want to see.
Why does 2015 matter? This year there will be two important UN summits focused on sustainable development and climate change. The decisions made at these two meetings will set the course of the world as we know it for a generation. All of us participating today are joined by millions of people around the world that are raising their voices. Ben Affleck, Bill and Melinda Gates, and coalition of over 1,000 organizations in 128 countries around the world are part of Action 2015. The campaign is calling on world leaders to agree on plans to eradicate poverty, prevent dangerous climate change, and tackle inequality at the summits. Nobel Peace Prize laureates and Malala Fund co-founder Malala Yousafzai stated, "People globally want an end to injustice, poverty, and illiteracy. Our world is interconnected and youth are ready and mobilized more than ever to see real change take place. Together, we are demanding our leaders to take action in 2015, and we must all do our part. I will continue to work tirelessly to call on world leaders to seize this opportunity to guarantee a free, quality primary and secondary education for every child. That is my goal, and I hope that my voice will be heard as it is the voice of millions of children who want to go to school." Today, we will have the chance to talk about our dreams for the future and in 2015. We can take action to make a difference. So why does 2015 matter? It matters because we matter. We are 15. Now I would like to introduce Amina Massoub, Director of Education Programs at the World Affairs Council of Pittsburgh, who will facilitate the rest of this event.
Okay, thank you, Erica and Lacey, for your warm welcome and inspiring words on the importance of 2015. This is indeed an important conversation. I feel really honored to be part of it with you because 2015 matters to all of us. For me personally, in 15 years, my baby boy will be your age, and all of you will be my age. Kind of awesome and terrifying at the same time, right? So I want all of you and Sebastian to grow up in a world that is better than the world that we live in today. So he is 15 and I am 15 and we are 15. Before we move on, I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Emily Markham. If you have any technical issues or comments, please raise your hand by posting your question on Skype, by messaging World Affairs Pittsburgh, or please use the Zoom chat function. Also, for the schools that do not currently have a banner showing the name of your school, if you can make that visible so we know who you are. I'd also like to give an overview of today's schedule. So first, we will hear from each site. You'll share the issue that is most important to you and why. Then we'll hear from Michael Carson from Save the Children, one of the organizations we've partnered with today, and that is doing launch events around the world. You'll have a chance to ask Mr. Clausen questions directly, and after he signs off, he'll go to the launch events in DC along with the students at Cornell. So after he signs off, we'll have a chance to talk more about what we need leaders to do about the issues that matter to you, and we'll also discuss how to take action. As Ashley and Lacey mentioned, we'll also be checking in regularly with the Twitter sphere to see how the conversation is going locally and globally. And so as part of that, if you want to join the Twitter conversation, use hashtag Action2015 and hashtag WAC2015. So Dominic, what are you seeing on Twitter?
Well, I'm seeing nothing. I'm guessing something went wrong with the TV. But I do remember that at Kerr's class said, we're ready to help with our DC delegation. They did have a picture, but can't see it right now, obviously. But still, what are you gonna do? We'll probably have this fixed by next time we come back to me. So just stay patient. We'll do this.
All right, thanks Dominic for rolling with it. We're excited. Oh, we can go back to him. So I guess things are up and running.
So now we're back.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, like I said, we're ready to lend our voices with the DC delegation. We still haven't got the picture up, but still, I have proof. And there's a picture. Yeah, I believe we have students from all over the country going to this. And yeah, I wish I was there, not gonna lie.
Great. Thank you so much, Dominic. So this is really exciting. And if you're watching the Twitter conversation, you'll see people from all around the world that are taking part in this global digital rally. So let's get started. So I'm going to start by calling on each site. And I would like you to share your school name, your location, and the class that's participating. At this time, you'll share what issue is most important to you and why. And we're actually going to start off with a school that we're working with in Jordan. They would like to share. So we'll start with Dahat Al-Rashid Secondary School in Amman. So again, location and the issue that's important to you and why. And Mike, if you can give me a thumbs up if they're on and they're able to speak at this point. Okay. So we'll just hang out for a second. So all of you, again, we're looking forward to having this conversation and hearing the issues that are most important to you at this time. And again, if you don't have visible the name of your school and location, if you can just make a banner or something like that, that would be really helpful so we can know who you are. Okay, Jordan, go.
Jordan, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Madea. I'm from Jordan, Amman, Tahta Rashid School.
Tell us a little bit about your school and the problem.
Again? No,
Again? Sorry? I didn't see.
Sorry, we didn't hear you.
We didn't hear you. Tell us a little bit about your school and the problems.
Hi, we are.
Okay, hi, again, sorry. The issue is, okay. My name is Madea, sorry. And again, my issue is the girl education.
Okay, and can you tell us, so why is that issue important to you? education is important. So why? Why is it important to you?
My issue is the girl education. Why it's important? Because if we educated a boy, we educated a one person. But if we educated a girl, we educated a family and a whole nation.
Okay, that was beautifully said. So the effect of girls' education has a ripple effect, not just for her, but for her whole community. So thank you for sharing that. So we'll turn now to Caroline at Agora Cyber Charter School. Could you share a little bit about your school and then the issue that's most important to you and why?
Sure. Well, I go to Agora Cyber Charter School. It's an online school, which is why I'm at home. And I didn't have a banner, so I just went and threw on my school shirt. It has the school name on it. The school's in Wayne, Pennsylvania, which is, if you look at a map of the United States, it's kind of at the top, a little bit below the top and towards the right. And I'm in Pittsburgh, which is, if you look at a map of the U.S., there's a state called Pennsylvania. If you look at the bottom of Pennsylvania, that's where I am. And I'm honestly not sure what issue is the most important for me. I kind of joined this really late. I'm sorry, I wasn't really well prepared. It's also finals week. So I'm sorry, I really don't know. But I think that education is really important, which is why I'm here. And I think that in the United States, learning STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, is what's most important in education in the United States.
Hey, I think that's a great response for being put on the spot. So thank you. And again, so all of the sites we're going to go around and ask you the same question. So let's turn now to the KRAB school in Tehran. If you could share a little bit about your school and the issue that is most important to you and why.
Hi, hello. We are Kaya School. We are Kaya School in Tehran, Iran. Can you hear us? Okay. And our issue is air pollution. This issue is very important for us because it's influencing our city and our health in a negative way.
Unmute. Great, thank you so much. And that is an issue that connects us around the world. Pittsburgh, PA, USA, where we are right now, has some of the worst air pollution in the United States because we have an industrial past. And so we're still suffering from a lot of air pollution from the industrial age and the steel mills. So that's something that we share in common. And a lot of young people have asthma and other health issues as a result. So thank you. That's definitely something that unites us here today. So do we have Avonworth High School on at this point? And if so, if you could share the issue that's most important to you and why.
Oh, okay. This is Avonworth High School, and my name is JJ Idrams, and we're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the United States of America. And we believe that the most significant goal is achieving universal primary education, because improving education will bring up the motivation to achieve all the other goals. Education will bring the understanding of the consequences if the other goals are not achieved.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And education, I think, is a theme that's running through. Of course, we know Lala. That is the issue that she's fighting for education around the world. Imagine places around the world where you would have to pay to go to primary school, or that school fees would be so high that you wouldn't be able to go. And here in the United States, education is facing major changes. So that's a key issue. So we'll turn now. We're hoping to get feedback from Colegio and Nolan and in Mexico. We're hoping to get their responses via Twitter as they're having some technical issues right now. Hopefully broadband access will be one of those, part of these important sustainable development goals. So we're going to turn now to Colin, who's going to speak on behalf of students here at well, high school. So go. So tell us a little bit about the issue that's most important to you and why.
Cultural inequality, because groups in the U.S. are still ostracized because of their religion, ethnicity, or even just the way they act compared to the U.S.
Okay, so having better ways to embrace diversity, both within and among countries, is that pretty accurate?
Pretty much, yeah. Like making it so that it's like you can't like it's more welcoming.
Okay, so people can work together more effectively. All right, so we're going to turn to thank you. We're going to turn now to Delvalle High School in Texas, and I just want to point out that world-class schools and Mike Cunningham, who you saw earlier, has been a huge part of connecting us with schools around the world. So thank you for that. We'd love to hear now what issue is most important to you and why.
I don't know if they can see us or not, but they're not talking about us right now.
Yeah, I'd say that from Delvalle standpoint, we're in the middle of finals, so our students gave me this information. Immigration, pathway to citizenship, and normalization of relations with Iran are our two biggest problems.
And so why are those issues that your students are passionate about?
Pathway to citizenship, the tremendous amount of people in our area would like to be able to become citizens. Maybe as much as a high percentage of our students are either children of undocumented workers or blended families, and they'd all like to be able to share different relationships. In fact, a gentleman just had to step out. He was waiting to talk, but his brother is undocumented. He couldn't go to college because no funding. So it's a large problem here. And normalization with relations to the Iran, I think we all can see exactly how great the people from Iran are. And if we could recognize countries different instead of trying to get to be enemies, we'd be a lot better off.
Okay, thank you so much. And I see that Save the Children has dialed in and they're ready to go. So we'll turn to one more school, to Northwestern High School. Then we'll hear a little bit from Dominic on the Twitter sphere, and then we'll go to you. So we should be right on time. So Northwestern High School, that's up in Erie, close to the Great Lakes. Could you tell us the issue that is most important to you and why?
Hi, I'm Lacey Shoemake from Northwestern High School. We're in Albion, Pennsylvania, and our most important issue is water quality because we're so close to Lake Erie and there are so many streams that run through our town, and things like algae fishing, just the quality of the water is really important to us.
And thank you for pointing that out, that where you are in the world really affects the issues that might matter to you the most, but we do have these commonalities around the world. So water quality is a huge issue here in Pittsburgh, and it's something that leaders in the region have been working on remedying for the past 50 years. And it's only been in the past few years that water the quality has improved. So huge issue around the world, especially in countries, large populations that are developing rapidly. So I know Dominic has some highlights from Twitter that he would like to point out to us. So Dominic, can you share what you're seeing?
Well, yes, I would love to share what I'm seeing. Right now we have a tweet coming in from Colombia, South America. I'll give you a couple seconds to read that. Okay. The next one we have from Maddie, Matt14. He says 2015 is going to be the year we can change the world. I believe so as well. We just keep our priorities straight instead of, making more technical stuff, stuff like that. I mean, we have it now. We're pretty upgraded from now. Right now, I mean. That's all we have right now. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So we're very excited to be turning next to Save the Children. Again, Save the Children is the organization that has tapped us into Action 2015. They work around the world on development issues, and even here in the United States, they work with young people. So can we get a thumbs up from Save the Children if you're going to be ready to go in about a minute or so?
Can you see me?
Yes.
Hi. Yep. Hi, I'm Jenny Russell from Save the Children. We're going to be joined here in Washington, D.C. with Michael Clausen, who's our Vice President for Policy and Humanitarian Response. In just 1 minute, I don't know if we can hear a couple more tweets right before Michael gets here.
Yeah, so I'll just go ahead and do his full introduction. And so as Jenny mentioned, and it looks like he's just entered, Michael Clausen is the Vice President for Policy and Humanitarian Response for Save the Children, based in Washington, D.C., which is where he's joining us from today. Mr. Clausen was a career Foreign Service officer before joining Save the Children, so he has lived and worked all around the world, and especially in Asia and Europe. At Save the Children, he oversees the agency's public policy and advocacy work with U.S. and foreign governments, as well as its global emergency response work. He works on issues such as health, education, and food security, as well as cross-cutting issues such as post-2015 development goals, which is, of course, what we're talking about today. He has represented Save the Children at various international conferences, including the G20 and G8 summits. And on the emergency front, he helps steer Save the Children's responses in Haiti, Pakistan, the Horn of Africa, and Syria, and is spearheading efforts to enhance further the agency's emergency response capacity. So thank you so much, Mr. Clausen, for joining us today and for all of your important work through Save the Children. By being here, you're showing us how important young people are in this global movement. We look forward to hearing your comments and asking questions afterward. So students, this is important. Please prepare questions to ask Mr. Clausen. Afterward, we'll do a round robin again. So we'll go around to each of the sites. So prepare a question that you would like to ask him. And Mr. Clausen, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much. Amina, can you hear me all right? Is the sound working? Okay, no, that's great. I really appreciate that very kind introduction. And I think it's a really exciting time to be having this discussion. And I want to thank the World Affairs Council in Pittsburgh and others around the country for helping organize this event. I mean, in a lot of ways, this new campaign that is launching today, Action 2015, has the potential for all of us on this conference today to be part of making history. I mean, when I think about what's at stake over the course of the next 12 months of this year, I think that there's a tremendous opportunity to really make the world a better place for people and also make the planet a better place for everybody. And I do think that all of us here on this call hold that capacity in our hands. And what I think about, it reminds me a bit of the March on Washington back in the 1960s when we all, I think, know about Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. And you also think about in 1989 when the Berlin Wall came down and the Soviet Union eventually disappeared. We don't know that that's going to be the outcome of the conversation we're starting today and the campaign that's launching today, but it has that potential really to change the course of history. And it's not about following an individual leader. It's about all of us sort of standing up in our own way and taking actions and being heard. So I think we're here on this call. I know we have colleagues in Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh and Texas and a couple of Mexico, I guess, and I think Iran. But the heartening thing is that this is really a global effort, and I think there's over 50 countries in every region of the world that are participating in this. So this is part of a really big moment, and if we're successful, by the end of the year, we can look back and say we helped bring about a much better world for all of us. Here in Washington, we're joined by, I think, a group of around 50 young people, and we've been meeting with them over yesterday and today, and they will be having some discussions actually at the Department of State with Secretary Kerry's Deputy Secretary of State and also the head of the U.S. Agency for International Development to talk about this set of issues and to say what they hope the world will become as a result of all of this work. So I think it's important that people understand that what happens today is just the beginning. It's really what we can all do over the course of the year in various ways on social media and in other ways to really bring about the change that is possible. So this Action 2015 campaign is really a groundbreaking campaign. It involves a lot of young people on this conference call today, but it also involves sort of rock stars. It involves movie stars. It involves leaders like the Queen of Jordan. It involves people like Malala, who got the Nobel Prize in India. So there's a lot of people that are involved in this. There's a lot of energy and a lot of momentum, and I think that augurs well for making a real change. I mean, why is this year? Why is 2015 such a big opportunity? I think it is for two reasons. There's a very important meeting of world leaders in September who will gather in New York, and they will be looking at signing a new international agreement that would make progress in eliminating extreme poverty and reducing sort of preventable deaths of mothers and children, about reducing inequality, about improving human dignity. So there's that opportunity where President Obama, the leader of Iran, the president of Mexico, a lot of other leaders, all the world leaders will be getting together. And it may actually be the largest summit meeting ever held in the world. And it's on a very important set of topics. The second event takes place in Paris at the end of the year, and that event deals with climate change. And it's an opportunity for the international community, world leaders, to step up and put in place some very serious steps that actually can reduce the impact of climate change on our planet. And so when you put those two things together, it's a real, if those two events go well, it really could be a turning point. So if you think about, we're kind of at a fork in the road. On the one hand, if these two events are simply agreements that are pieces of paper that leaders sign, that there's a lot of ceremony, that there's good press headlines, and then they're put on the shelf, that's one possibility. The other possibility is actually that these are very ambitious agreements. They have a lot of in them, and there's a strong signal from people all around the world, particularly young people, that these agreements really do matter, and people across the world want to see these two opportunities taken so that very serious agreements with significant steps are put in place, and that world leaders then implement them. So I think that's, all of us on this call today have the possibility that we go down the second road, not the first road. It really is about ensuring that and having leaders understand that all of us really want to see ambitious agreements that are not simply pieces of paper. We want to see reduce poverty, that improve the lives of people and improve our planet. And I think that's kind of the conversation that we can start today, and for people to reflect upon and think about their individual ways that they can take that forward. So we can really, I think it's not about people all across the world getting involved in that. And that reflects the nature of the group that's behind Action 2015. I think this Coalition Action 2015 campaign is really a global effort. I think there's around 1,000 organizations up until now that are involved, and from very different walks of life. It's young people, it's people in the environmental community, it's people in labor unions, different sectors of life, and they're all, we're all pushing together to say to our political leaders, take advantage of these two opportunities this year to end extreme poverty and to improve the planet. That's what this whole effort's about. And I guess the one question would be why should young people care about this? And I think there's actually two reasons. It's all of our planet, but it's really the future for they can have a direct impact in shaping. So it's partly very much in all of our interests that we improve States, improve the way that we are and people are in the United States. But secondly, there's also, if you think about it, when you look around the world, there are a lot of folks, Save the Children is very focused on reducing preventable deaths of young kids. There's about 6 million children across the world who die each year. Kill kids here in the United States. It's things like diarrhea, things like pneumonia. You don't hear about people dying in the United States of diarrhea and pneumonia, but those are among very big killers of younger people, children overseas. So there's And so I think it's young people, it's all of us speaking up for what we want as a better planet for ourselves, but it's also speaking up for us excluded or marginalized and don't have their own voices that people can hear. So we want to give voice to those aspirations and those hopes. And we are particularly interested in the overall campaign because we want to lift up the way the world is for everybody, but we're very focused on trying to do something significant for these under 5. Think about it, there's a million kids die on the day they're born in this world. I mean, just think about that. That's often, for most people, when you give birth to a child, that's, happiest day in a lot of parents' lives. But for 2 million parents, a million kids, they're born that day, they die that day. That has to stop. And that's part of what this campaign will help bring about, because one of the goals that is going to be offered up in September at the United Nations is about ending the preventable deaths of mothers and children. So we're interested in the whole campaign. We're particularly interested in that part of the campaign, because if we take care of that over the next 15 years, then it has a lot of other effects. One of the other contributors for under 5 mortality is malnutrition. So what and that often in the first 1,000 days, if you take care of that in the first 1,000 days, then you have kids learning in school, you have kids able to work better in the workplace. So I think when you put it all together, I think this is an opportunity for all of us to really make the world a much better place. So let me just stop there, and I'm happy to take any questions that folks have and engage in the dialogue.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much. And before we move on to student questions, so we'll start with the students in Amman and Jordan. But I have a question for you, just to kind of clarify something. What are some of the lessons learned from the Millennium Development Goals that are running out this year? And how is this process in Action 15, how is this different than the process that went into developing the Millennium Development Goals 15 years ago?
Two points on the Millennium Development Goals, and these are 8 goals that were adopted by world leaders in 2000, and they've been aiming at guiding efforts over the last 15 years. The Millennium Development Goals is that in quite a few countries they did have an impact on policy, and they did have an impact on the way resources had a positive effect. I mean, in our case, one of the Millennium Development Goals is about reducing under 5 mortality by 2. Back over this period, you can say that goal helped focus and mobilize efforts that have actually made quite a bit of progress. 1990 and now, you've probably cut roughly in half the number of children who died each year. It's a little over 6 million now. It was in 1990, which is the baseline for the Millennium Development Goals. It was about 12 million. So I would say that the goals were energy, they channeled policy, and they channeled resources. The downside with the goals is they looked at averages. So when you say to get that 2/3 reduction, you tend to get the easier people to reach. So one of the things that these goals didn't do was reducing inequality. So you could reduce under 5 mortality rates, but it still ends up that a lot of the less having a higher rate of mortality. So I think going forward, what we are very much looking for in this next set of goals is get to 0. The world can get to 0 on a number of these things. You can get every kid in school, you can get every child in school learning, and actually you can end preventable deaths of mothers and children in the next 15 years. That's feasible. So the goal is not a ratio as is the case with the Millennium Development Goals. It needs to be these sort of just end it, or in this notion of while you're moving in that direction, you actually have to reduce the inequalities that have emerged as a result of just development. So the way we think these goals ought to be implemented is that the goal is not reached unless it's reached for everybody of a particular ethnicity, of a particular income group. So I think it's going forward. I think the Millennium Development Goals, I think had a slower start in terms of being sort of a mobilizing and politically weighty instrument. And so I think a lot of the impact of the goals has come later in that period. There wasn't as much energy, and they're adopting more of a governmental event. And so I think that the opportunity with this next set of goals is really for all of us to say, this is a really big deal when you do this, and it and make it a much more public thing, and therefore hold leaders feel accountable to implement them.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. So, and for pointing out that is why it's so important that young people are part of this, and that grassroots organizations are part of this, so that it's much more. It sounds like it's much more participatory than the Millennium Development Goals, that whole process and the implementation was. So, thank you. So now we have time for questions for. Hopefully we'll be able to get to all the schools. So let's turn now to Amman Jordan. What questions do you have for Mr. Carson?
I think they're having technical difficulties.
Okay, and as we're waiting for Amman Jordan to come on, why don't we turn to Caroline, if you want to tune in from your home and ask any questions that you might have.
Sure. I guess the only question I do have is that we're talking about all these things, but is this going to be a continued conversation between our group, or are we just here to learn about it and then go off and do our own things?
Oh, sure. So I can answer that question. This is a continuing conversation with this group, but also you can go on and take action on your own as well. A good point. If your school or your community, if you decide that there's something that you're really fired up about, you, by all means, don't let anyone stand in your way. So so thank you.
So there will be more video calls with us then.
Oh, sure. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So let's for Mr. Clausen specifically, that you might have.
No, I was just wondering, where we were going with all of this, and if we were going to work together to make changes, or are we just going to changes we've made or anything? Maybe talk to politicians together, work as like an international group. Yeah.
Oh, sure. And so another part of this, and is that the footage from today will be kind of spliced down and then shared with key stakeholders. So that includes members of Congress and other important leaders as we move forward. So in fact, the pieces that are on Twitter that are going to hashtag WAC 2015, those will be included as part of that video. So let's turn to Amman Jordan. Are you able to share some of the any questions you might have? And if we don't hear from them, then we'll turn here to students at Cornell.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Poverty is the main reason of every problem that we have. Can you hear me?
So yes, we heard that we heard you say that poverty is the main problem that we have. So we heard you mention something about poverty. So if you can continue, we can hear you, but
I
we
just
can't
want
see you. But that's
to
fine.
ask about the poverty. Is it the main reason of every problem that we have?
Okay, so I think that's a question for Mr. Clausen. So yeah, do you find that poverty is the kind of the
My question
the
is,
issue
it
here?
is the reason of our. Yes.
Right. So, no, thank you for that question. And actually, I've been in Amman a couple of times this year already. I think poverty is certainly one, and think about poverty in a very broad sense, not simply in an economic sense. I think it is clearly one of the root causes of a lot of, a lot of harm and misfortune that people have. So this is very much part of it's the first goal of the next framework to end extreme poverty. So but to do that, it's not simply a question of livelihoods. It really to end poverty really it requires a lot of other things to take place in terms of providing health, in terms of frankly, in terms of providing better protection for children. So from our perspective, from Save the Children's perspective, when we think about poverty affecting people, the answer is there's not a single simple answer to that. But having that as sort of the overarching, as one of the big next goals, I think will be helpful in focusing attention more broadly on the steps that have to be taken across health, education, livelihoods, and so forth to tackle this. So thank you for the question. My hope is that when leaders get together in New York and they embrace these goals, that this will result in a lot more energy around ending extreme poverty.
Okay, thank you so much. I see it looks like students at Avonworth have their hands raised, and so let's turn to your question.
Okay.
It is unmuted.
All right. What steps are we taking to achieve our goals? It's called Action 2015, but what action are we taking?
I think that there's going to be a toolkit. Excuse me. I think Amina can help you out on this as well. I mean, this is just the website. There's various toolkits for taking various kinds of actions. So it's at many different levels. Today, it's really it's get involved, healthy, post it on your Facebook. Start to have people, politicians in particular, understand that a lot of Americans and people in other countries are drumbeat to say, we really do want to see politicians adopt ambitious goals and carry those goals out. So the first step really for today is to take your selfie and put it on your Facebook, but there will be a lot of other possible actions where you can be in touch with members of Congress, get involved in various events and things. And I can't give you a full catalog right now, but a lot of this information will be on the Action 2015 website. And then if you go to, as I said, there's about 1,000 organizations that are involved in this effort. If you go to some of their websites, there are other possibilities. I mean, the Save the Children website, for example, has various on our focus on maternal and child health. And that'll give you some concrete things you can do as well. But that is part and parcel of pushing this overarching poverty and have world leaders adopt that as a goal in September.
Thank you, and I think that's a really neat part of this movement. And as people were talking about the issues that they see, a lot of the issues that people face are within their own local community. And so part of it might be taking action on a national or international level, but it's how our individual local communities are interconnected too. So that's also a big part of it. So we're going to turn now to students at Cornell. I know that there are a few questions here, and so we'll start with the ladies to my left.
I do have one question. What are your thoughts about women equality and increased education for girls?
I'm sorry, what are my thoughts about what? I didn't get the last part.
Women equality and increased education for girls.
It's a huge center in the next set of development goals. I mean, the current set of Millennium Development Goals tackles those. It had goals on education and it had goals on women's empowerment. But I think it's very clear that progress has been made, but the job is far from done. So there needs to be a lot more energy and effort put in. Is one of the the goals are not finalized yet, but the draft that exists of the 17 goals, that what you're talking about is very much in there, and there's a particular reason for that. I mean, when you think about sort of the engines of prosperity and growth in a lot of countries, what you find is that it's particularly the who are, focused on the needs of the family, and when they're making the decisions on how to use family resources, that often is very much aimed at the interests of the entire family, and therefore they're engines of growth. So I think it's both important for women and girls in and of themselves, but also when you think about how does a family advance, when women are empowered to make those decisions, you often see that greater attention to than otherwise would be the case if it was just the guy that was making the decisions. I hate to say that as a guy, but it is the research bears that out. So it needs the next set of the Sustainable Development Goals, as they're called.
Okay, thank you for sharing that, and that's very much echoing the issue that pointed out as well for girls education. So let's turn now at Delvalle. Do we have any questions to Cape Broad School in Iran?
If you ask for Delvalle, I have a couple questions. One is, what is Save the Children doing for helping the refugee situation in Syria?
So that actually is one of my areas of responsibility, and we're working on a number of different dimensions. We are very, very active supporting refugee communities in Lebanon and in Jordan, as well as refugees that have gone to Iraq and refugees that are in Egypt. We have very, very large scale. These they're not in big camps. I mean, in Lebanon, there are no big camps. In Jordan, there's 2, but the refugees are really dispersed across the country. And so we're providing we get funded, and we are funded by the UN High Commission for Refugees. We're funded by the British Department for International Development. We're funded by the U.S. Agency for International Development. We get funding from various American corporations and actually just the American people as a whole. And we are providing health services. We are providing child protection services. Amman, Zatari camp, we are actually providing a lot of the child-friendly spaces, a lot of the early education for the really younger children. And we're also we've been involved in providing the bread distribution on a daily basis for everyone in the camp, and also involved in distribution of food or vouchers in the camp. So it's a very major part of our programmatic work on the ground, but we don't stop at that. And I would say, I mean, if you think about it, what we're talking about are hundreds of thousands of refugees. I mean, millions of refugees actually, that when you can't put them all together. So we are working at a very large scale on the ground. Beyond that, also, we have issued a whole series of reports over the last several years, drawing attention to the plight of these Syrian refugees in these countries, so that they remain the focus of world attention, because it does take resources to provide support for roughly 3 million Syrians that have fled the country. So we do a lot of advocacy work with the U.S. government, with U.S. Congress, with the United Nations, and with other governments to make sure that the plight of these millions of refugees is front and center, and that resources are available so that their needs can be met.
Okay, thank you so much. And I just want to point out that the school that's participating from Amman, Jordan, they have a team that attend the school during the day, and then they have an afternoon evening session with 800 Syrian refugees. So definitely something for them.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, if I could just say can I say one thing on that point? I think our focus, I mean, we are focused on the refugees, but because when you think about it, I mean, the Jordanians in Jordan and then and Lebanese in Lebanon, this is a huge responsibility to provide support for these refugees. And so what we are also trying to do is ensure that host communities, that Lebanese and Jordanians are, and particularly the refugees, that they're not congregating in the very well-off neighborhoods of those countries. So we want to make sure that the Jordanians and the Lebanese in those countries also get the kind of support they need in order to provide the hospitality that they're providing. So our focus are affected by the conflict in Syria, whether you're a Syrian refugee or whether you're a Jordanian or Lebanese.
Great. So if we can turn now to K-Rod School, what if you could, if you have any questions for Mr. Clausen?
You did mention channeling of energy, and is chief reduction of oil price impact environmental protection efforts?
That's a good question. Yeah, but so you're asking about energy and the reduction of oil?
Yes.
So if you could repeat the question about oil prices?
How would the reduction in oil prices impact environment?
Right. So let me answer that in two ways. I mean, the first point is the whole issue of better protecting our environment and reducing the impact of climate change is very much part of both will attend at the end of the year, but it's also one of the things that is in the 17 sustainable development goals in the United Nations. And so those goals talk about protecting the environment. They also talk about renewable energy. So there is attention being paid, not sort of using up the resources of the planet. That's sort of the driver behind the goals. In terms of the specific question about this dramatic reduction in gas prices and oil prices and the impact that will have, that's harder for me to say since I don't follow those issues on a day-to-day basis. I mean, I think you would not want to see a huge increase in consumption of fossil fuel as a result of that. But I think that remains to be seen how that will play out in the economies. I don't know. I don't have an impression.
So thank you. So now we'll turn to, we have at Northwestern
Sure.
High School and then Quaker Valley. So Northwestern, you're on.
All right, our question was, in what order are issues addressed? Like, you keep talking about all the goals you have set, and we were wondering if they're ordered in importance by majority or by immediate issues.
That's a really good question, and I think the truthful answer is it depends. It's probably not the answer that you want, because if you think about it, the way these 17 goals have come about, there were, roughly everybody all the countries represented in the United Nations were part of that process. So that's 180, 190 governments, and so there's this list of 17 goals. They're numbered 1 through 17, but that does not represent their priority. The fact that they're on the list means that enough countries cared about those goals to make them to get them on the list. So I think but then when you have 17 goals, it's a very good question. What of those 17, what's the priority? And I think it's kind of conversations like this and the sense of American people to let our government know. I'm talking for Americans right now. I mean, it's up to us to let our government know of those 17, which do we think are the most important in terms of their impact on our lives. So there may be a lot of other things in there that are not as directly, from your perspective, are not as directly relevant to your day-to-day life compared to something else. And I think it's the way you make a goal a priority is to speak up and point and have political leaders understand that you think that's a priority. But right now, the 17 goals are pretty much equal, if you will. There's 17 of them. So if you care about some more than others, stand up, point that out, make some noise, have people hear that these 3 goals are the most important to you. I mean, as in Save the Children, we're particularly focused on the ones that affect the well-being of children. So we will be saying, hey, the education goal is really important. Hey, the health goal is really important. It's not to say the others are unimportant, but those are the ones that we're going to be particularly focused on to say this is where we want to see some early action. But that's the way these goals will get prioritized, and the way some goals will get more attention than others is really in the hands of all of us in the first instance with the U.S. government.
Thank you.
It's
so
political.
For our last question, let's turn, yes, always political. If we could turn now to Quaker Valley for the final question.
Hello?
Hi. Go ahead. Oops, can't do that.
Muted. Madea, we can't hear you.
Just say something with this.
Yeah, that's clear now. Yes.
So we're a group of students from school, and we of Pittsburgh, and we make council of school scholars committee. Our question for you: what do you think themselves in smaller and larger cities personally to help for child?
So you're actually,
I got every other word.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Do we?
I think it's working.
Okay. Can you guys hear us right now?
Yes, I can. That's much better.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard who we are, but we're the Executive Council of the Global Scholars Program at Quaker Valley High School. And our question for you is, what can teens themselves do to help personally lower the child mortality rate?
That's a great question, and I'm thank you also for participating in this event today. I think there's a number of things that you can do. Again, in the first if rate mainly overseas, and I think that those are where the higher ones are. Although in some parts of the United States, it's I think it's partly kind of mobilizing your community to provide resources for people who are working on that problem. So, I mean, you can do fundraisers and things like that, and then the various groups that are involved in helping do program work on the ground, you have a very tangible way of supporting their work on the ground. But beyond that, I think it's also important for our politicians to understand that people in America care about this. If you're a politician in Washington, you're constantly having a discussion about if I'm spending money overseas, people will criticize me, and because we should be spending money in America. So it's helpful when people there are groups like yours that care about kids overseas, for those politicians to understand that actually they'd be supported by folks, your politician from your congressional district, for example, your congressional member or your two senators, for them to understand that they're actually in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh, there's support for the U.S. playing that role overseas. And so they don't have to worry about somehow losing votes if they spend some, modest amounts of money overseas. I mean, after all, the whole foreign aid budget is roughly 1% of the U.S. government budget. I mean, people across America often have the impression that we spend maybe 30% of the U.S. government budget, or 20%, or 15% on foreign aid. In fact, it's barely 1%. So I think it's important for politicians to get motivated to do this, number one, and then to have people expressing support for when they do. We have Save the Children. We bring a couple of hundred people to Washington each year for what's called an advocacy summit in April. And part of and this is one of the issues that we discuss with members of Congress. And one of the points there is for members of Congress to understand that this is actually something they will get political support for doing. It's not a political risk. It's actually a political winner. And it's important for them to get that message from Americans who care about this. So I think those two things, you can mobilize some resources from your community, and it can be, for communities who are challenged in America in this respect, certainly support that program work, support overseas program work, but then have your representative and your senators, and frankly the president, you can write him too, let him know that this is the right thing to do from your perspective, and you welcome the fact that people are doing it. It makes a difference. It makes a real difference.
Okay,
thank you.
For answering all of these questions, and for your inspirational briefing and overview of why today is important, why 2015 matters. So thank you so much. We look forward to continuing to work with Save the Children over the course of the next year to continue to take action on these important issues. So I understand you
Great.
have to
Thanks, Amina.
go to the launch. Yeah, go to the launch in DC. So thank you for spending your time with us this morning.
Great. No, and thanks for having us. And we're more than happy. I'm more than happy to continue this dialogue with, you know, in any way that makes sense. I think, as I said, I'm really committed to this. I think it's really important, and all together we can make a huge difference. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to say thank you to Cornell High School for dedicating 2 students to come to Washington, Trania and Olivia. I spoke with them last night, and they're really excited, and they're going to the State Department in a few minutes, as Michael said, to meet with the Deputy Secretary. So it's really exciting, and thank you for contributing students and for holding this event.
Thank you so much. Thank you for, it's been great working together. So,
Okay.
So now, yeah, we'll, so if, once you sign off, we'll turn over to Dominic and see what's going on in the Twitter sphere. So take care and have a
Great.
good rest of your launch day.
Thank you. Is this how we turn it off?
Yeah.
All right, Dominic, tell us what you're seeing.
I'm seeing a bunch of tweets now. We got about 5 more. One from Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin Mobile, the phone company. Today we call on leaders around the world to take the right path for people and planet in 2015. There's a link to something on the photo or something like that. That's one from Ed Mullivan. Yes, at Ed Mullivan. I've been at the launch of #Action15 more than ever. The UK and the world needs leadership on tackling poverty, inequality, and climate change. At One Campaign UK says, 15 years old campaigners took out #Action15 messages to David Cameron. You can get involved too. I believe this one has a picture. I believe that's the Prime Minister of UK, if I remember correctly. I believe so. Yes, I'm getting on. Yes. At One in Africa says, #Action15 is our time. Time to let the world leaders know that we stand for a better world for everyone. Oh, I really accept this one. This is a nice one. One more. I like. At one FR, I believe that's France. #Action15 launches in Paris. In 2015, youth are demanding a better world. CC. Okay. And there's also a picture that goes with that one. And there's a couple of #Action15 contributors sitting in front of the Eiffel Tower. It's nice.
Great, thank you so much, Dominic, for sharing these inspirational tweets. And again, the conversation will continue on Twitter even after we sign off. So if you want to be part of that, use #Action2015 or #WAC2015 to be included in the video that we'll share with key stakeholders. So now we're going to get into the meat of things. And I know that Caroline had asked earlier, so what is action, and what are we going to be doing? And so that's really up to you. You're the young people who are going to be seeing these goals moving forward. So again, we'll do kind of a round robin and hear what actions you would like to see in 2015. What do world leaders need to commit to? And what actions do they need to take to tackle the issues you care about? And then we'll talk about what actions you personally will commit to in 2015 to bring issues to the attention of world leaders. So let's discuss what we can do both individually and collectively. So let's do a round robin. And so for those of you who are on, who've dialed in using room-based systems, so we can see and hear all of you, but the folks on Zoom, you can see that Zoom box, so we can actually hear people, but we can't see them, which is a little weird, but that's fine. So again, let's see if we can start off with the students in Jordan. What actions would you like to see in 2015? And what do they need to tackle this issue? Oh, we can see you, great.
World leaders need to commit to make policy change at global and national levels. They also should commit to make significant investments in the education of girls, support international and partnership with governments, non-government organizations, and the UN agencies. Thank you.
We can't hear you.
So you're talking about girls' education. Are there any issues that are local to you in Jordan regarding girls' education? Or any local challenges in Jordan?
We have challenges in transportation for girls. Yeah, we and education.
Please, can you repeat your question?
Yeah, so you said the girls' education is important. And in Jordan, what are some challenges for girls in getting an education? And you first mentioned transportation.
Yes, transportations is very hard to girls to go to school in valleys and villages. So many girls in villages can't go to school because the roads are dangerous for them, and some traditions
And there's a lot of children who don't have a schools to attend to it in Jordan, in the villages, and because of the Syrian refugees in Jordan. And in our schools, we have 2 shifts for Syrians up in afternoon.
Those sound like
and
two
our schools
really
are
important challenges.
our schools are crowded of girls and Syrians. And Syrians migration affected us to.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds like there are numerous issues. So transportation of girls to school. There aren't enough schools in the villages and rural areas. So it sounds like there are a lot of challenges locally. Okay, so let's turn now to let's go directly to Avonworth, and then Caroline, we'll come to you if you have some ways that you want to take action. But Avonworth, let's turn to you now.
Hi. So I think that if you start small or in a small group or even individually, you can begin to take action, raise awareness, and then start a chain reaction around the world. Is that a question?
So we challenge everyone to look internally.
So we challenge everyone to look internally and to see what they can do.
Okay, so I'm just telling you. So what are the issues that you have identified that you want to take action on?
Education, but more specifically now we're looking at poverty and hunger, and we have opportunities to, and this is something we can talk about, we can volunteer at like the table and things like that. There's real place. So we can talk about that with them.
We started with education and hunger, but also most of the causes, I think, are able to be taken by this way of action.
Great, thank you. So we're going to turn now to Cornell. So we have students here who would like to share some of the ways that they would like to take action or see action taken on important issues.
What we could try and do is show politicians evidence of these events, like in poverty, or like kind of like how you see those puppy commercials. You kind of show politicians like the problems of the world and like basically keep like shoving it in their face until they deal with it, because they're not. It's like the whole. It's not going to go away till it's dealt with.
Okay, so finding some ways to take action, maybe through media and social media. Okay, and specifically, you're thinking about dealing with issues of poverty, and you earlier as well. Okay, great. Delvalle, if you want to talk now, what are some of the actions that you?
I'd like to say something about the Syrian situation. I think that the refugee there is really pouring over into the Jordan schools and Lebanese schools, and that's a real problem for the people who live home. But I think our biggest problem would be that pathway to citizenship, and I'd really like to see some sort of an immigration bill that would have an ability to have students, and especially young people, be able to work towards getting their citizenship.
Okay, great, thank you. And Lily, did you want to share some of the goals that were identified earlier by Mr. Clausen, the 17 goals that are possibly going to be part of the next Sustainable Development Goals?
Sure, and they touch upon quite a range of different target areas related to sustainable development, ranging from ending poverty in all forms everywhere to ensuring access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable modern energy for all. It also includes building resilient infrastructure and reducing inequality within and among countries, and taking urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts around the world. So they really touched on quite a range of key areas that should be addressed in the coming years.
Okay, and like Mr. Clausen said, matter the most to you and to your local communities, and issues that you think matter globally as well. So really important issues. Let's turn now to the K-Rat School in Tehran. So what are the actions taken on, and what needs to happen to tackle this issue? Again, let's go to. You can share the issues you'd like action to be taken on. And while we're waiting for them, if we could turn to Madea on Twitter and see what's going on, what's happening in while we're waiting.
So far, we have a tweet from @. From the United States. And he said, additional rallies starting today highlights why 2015 is a historic year.
Okay, can you describe what's in the picture for those of us who can't see it
In the picture
really
right
clearly?
now, I'm guessing, yeah, that's the rally. We're heading the rally right now.
Okay.
And all children who are like supporting this are all together.
Great. So again, there's a digital rally at #Action2015, and you can be part of it too. This closed group on 2015. Anything else? Anything else to report on the Twitter sphere front?
Not currently, but we will have more for you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Just let us. So Caroline was interested in sharing some ways that she was interested in taking action. So Caroline, let's turn to you, and if you're able to come back on, great. We'd love to hear from you as well.
So I guess that my main idea, the youth group who's here in this conference right now, connect. Maybe through the World Affairs Council, we connect, or Facebook, or any way for us to really get together and understand the issues in each other's countries. And another to listen to us, because we can write letters and we can make them as persuasive as possible, but if we're not able to vote, why would they listen to us? One more thing about connecting with the youth is we could make a handbook project, like a book, like an online book of some ideas that we care. For example, I'm very passionate about human trafficking, so I have a lot of resources for that I could share, and we could all have enough of us get on each project, and maybe we can actually make a change.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing those ideas. It would be great if we could find, as a group. And I do want to point out that although you may not be able to vote right now, you are definitely, the next major election is in a couple of years now. So it's very possible that I'd say, a good majority of you will be able to vote in the next presidential election, which is important. And in the last two elections, youth were a key component in Obama's first election and re-election. So young people do have a voice in this country, and can really make some shocking waves in that status quo. So very important voices. Red School, are you still from you? If not, we'll turn to Northwestern. I think they had, so just by way of background, in Tehran, internet kind of goes in and out, and so they trouble earlier today, and we were really surprised that they were able to come on. So hopefully we'll be able to hear from them, but if not, it's they. So let's turn to Northwestern High School.
In our community, we have groups such as in Pennsylvania, but it's also taking place in Costa Rica. And the idea of it is to clean the water supply, because oceans are global. Pollution, waters in, I don't know, just far away. Oceans, lakes and oceans from other places. And we're just hoping that through the government, maybe we could spread awareness for all these different kinds of groups and help people learn what they can do to take action against these issues.
Yeah, it's a really neat idea. So how can you connect some people are facing the same issues, and maybe share how you're responding to those challenges and share some best practices? I mean, that's the really neat part of having these defined goals, is that it draws people with similar interests together. Really neat idea. Quick Valleys, let's hear from you next. What are some of the things from the actions that you're
Okay, can you guys hear us? I think it's on. All right. So for us, we had talked about, I heard several schools like Cornell and Avonworth talk about how, and as well Caroline talk about how, and for our school, we thought that maybe it would be a good idea to use the show not tell, in which we all collaborated, and link that in emails to Congress members and congressional leaders and such, to show how we're all passionate and about how our community is all passionate about dealing with these international. Just want to know that if any schools in the area were interested in participating in the video with us.
Sure, yeah, and that's part of what I mentioned earlier, that the kind of archive of this conversation today, plus the stuff that you're posting on Twitter. So they're taking all of that there are ways that we can collaborate on this even further. And then they're kind of paring it down, and then going to share that out with key stakeholders like Congress. Yeah, definitely. That's something that you know, we're really excited about here today. How many of you? Let's just see a show of hands. How many of you are ready to do of today's event? All right. Okay, so you're like, I think we're ready. So it's getting to be that time. So I'll just kind of explain what that piece is, and then ready to go. So we'll turn. Oh, okay. And it looks like our friends in Iran are on. So let's turn to our friends in campaign. So congrats, school. We're excited to hear back from you.
Okay, so we said our issue was is one of the most common issues in the lives of residents of Tehran and many other major cities in Iran, and to make the life expectancy of Tehranians decrease by 5 years.
Oh, and there are a few things we're doing to, and the government is doing to make one of them is increasing green spaces around major cities and making pedestrian sidewalks in busy areas. And the last one is increasing the area of the metro network around town.
I heard. So again, referring three things that you're doing. So increasing green spaces, and what were the other two that are happening?
Making pedestrian sidewalks in busy areas of the city, and the last one is increasing the area of the metro network around town.
Increasing public transit, and I think you mentioned sidewalks too. So giving people the opportunity to, instead of driving in a car, maybe they're gonna walk and be outside. That's great. And so yeah, so really neat ways of solving and addressing that issue. And I think certainly here in Pittsburgh we could benefit from continuing that piece of the conversation regarding air pollution. So like I mentioned, it's a big problem here. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the selfie campaign, and I think some of the students here have some examples. So if you have your yellow sheets, if we could kind of show those. So there are a couple different options for the selfie campaign. They're pretty awesome. So if we could zoom in here onto some of these, and then kind of like zoom in so you can actually read them. So the selfie campaign can be a couple different things. So one is sharing. So we have, for example, I am Ashley, and then I am discrimination, and I am 15. You can see that on this side we have I am Dominique. I am against discrimination, and I am 15. I'm Jasmine. I'm gender equality. I'm 15. Great. So you can do something like that, and then you're gonna post it to Twitter or Facebook and use hashtag Action 2015 and hashtag WAC 2015. The other one that you can do is even simpler. It's my dream for the future, and then you can write whatever you want for your dream for the future. Okay, so for example, you could write my dream for the future is all children surviving till 5. Okay, so yeah, so you got it. So K-Rad School, do you want to share yours? We can see it. So I'm K-Rad, I'm Clean Air, I'm 15. So that's great. So thank you for sharing that. We'll take all of these and once they're on Twitter, and then we can incorporate them in the video that I spoken of earlier. And again, this is a global digital rally, so you'll see people from all around the world participating in this. And we really look forward to sharing your ideas and messages with key stakeholders and continuing the conversation among this group and spreading the word as well. So I just want to thank all of you so much who have joined today's meeting. Thank you so much to Cornell. It's been really wonderful, as always, working with you, and thank you for really stepping up. I also want to point out that Delvalle was part of the initial calls regarding this, and so all the schools here today, I know that this comes at I think for all of the schools comes at kind of a really difficult time. I know you have testing, you have breaks. I know in Amman and Tehran, it's late night, so it's after certainly after school, and you're meeting in homes or finding other places to meet. So thank you so much for getting through all these challenges to have this important conversation. I'd also like to thank our partners, World Class Schools, Mike Cunningham, and ESC 13, Allegheny Intermediate Unit 3, and Magpie that makes all this possible, and of course the Save the Children for being such an important part of this event. So let's hear from Jay again. I know he wants to share something on that he's seeing on Twitter.
Yes, we have 3 tweets. One is from Eric Porterfield. He is currently tweeting us from Vietnam. He says, Vietnam is training Midwest to reach communities that might not have had access to healthcare previously. And we have one from Mabry Francis from Uganda. Hello, colleagues. I joined from Kampala. We just finished our launch. And we also have a picture for it of them walking the street, all of them putting signs up to support this. We have one more, and this is from one Brussels. Belgian and German 15-year-olds in Berlin for the launch of Action 2015 and a meeting with EU and German leaders.
All right, thank you so much. And so those are just some of the highlights that they saw from Twitter. So thank you so much for sharing that. And for all the students here, there are a lot of students that were actually off camera that you didn't have the opportunity to see, but they're participating on Twitter and taking notes and being part of this important conversation. So thank you for all of the work that you're doing. So we look forward to continuing the conversation. I know coming up, in girls' education on March 8th is International Women's Day, and we're certainly going to be having some conversations about girls and education around that time in early March. So kind of be looking forward to that conversation. I know that event is on a Sunday, so we'll be doing it on a different day of the week, so more schools can participate. But thank you again. And maybe everyone can open up their mics right now, because I would just kind of like to see if we can do this, that we can all say at the same time, we are 15. I'm not sure if that works. If you have your signs and stuff, you can hold it up. Next, unmute, and a count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
We are 15.
Yeah. Take care. Have a good day. Have a good night.